Today on CodeDependent, we're going to talk about some of the new 3D capabilities in Flash Player 10, as well as, more importantly, what we're doing about them in Flex 4. So Flex 4, we're exposing a lot of new capabilities in the new effects. Some of those capabilities are targeted at increased functionality, closer ties to tools capabilities, the ability to target arbitrary objects and arbitrary types, all that good, powerful, architect-y kind of stuff. But at the same time, the Flash Player folks have come out with some amazing capabilities in Flash Player 10. In previous episodes, we've talked a little bit about pixel bender shaders, which give you the ability to create very custom filters for your display objects in Flex applications. But we also have the ability to do 3D operations. So we're going to take a look at a very simple application today that shows you how to do simple 3D effects to get some sort of eye-popping stuff. In particular, it's more like button-popping stuff. So we've got a couple of radio buttons here that can select the effect that we want to happen when we hover over the button. So as I drag the mouse around, you can see the button sort of popping out to me. Now you could get a similar effect by simply scaling, but using 3D, it's a simple matter to say, well, move that thing in Z toward the viewer and then back out onto the XY plane. So we move the mouse around, we get this sort of popping effect on the button, kind of fun. I wouldn't want to see it in too many applications, but it's kind of fun for a demo. Or we can get a rotate effect. So as we move the effect around, the buttons are spinning around their Y-axis. And we're getting sort of a 3D spin around Y. Now, normally rotation in Flex 3 certainly, and prior to Flash 10, rotation would mean on the XY plane, sort of parallel to the user's view. But now we can actually rotate around the Y-axis or around the X-axis as well. Much more 3D, whizzy, cool stuff. So let's see how the code works. So visually what's going on is we have a vertical group, we have a group of radio buttons at the top. That's to select whether you want to rotate or move the objects when you hover over them. And then we have this other group declared where we put all those blank buttons. We're going to use a tile layout so we get this nice grid of those 9 buttons. And then each of the buttons, we've got an ID for it. We have a width and height associated with it. And we want to say, okay, when there is a mouse over event, call this function, animate hover, with its ID. And in the meantime, we have a declaration section where we declare the non-visual items for the markup in Flex 4. We have 2 effects declared. There's a rotate 3D effect. This is a new effect that's a subclass of the animate transform effect. So this is grouped in with move, rotate, scale. We also have move 3D, rotate 3D, and scale 3D, which I don't happen to be showing today. So just sort of 3D equivalents of the 2D functionality you've already experienced in Flex 3. So we've got rotate 3D. It's got an ID here. It says I'm going to rotate 360 degrees around the Y-axis. I'm going to auto-center my transform, which means I'm going to rotate around the center of my object. You're going to calculate the center for me instead of rotating around the upper left corner, which would just look goofy. And when the effect ends, we're going to call the end handler. And this is simply because we're tracking which objects we're hovering over so that we're not starting the effect multiple times as we drag the mouse over the same objects over and over again. So when we hover, we end up calling this ActionScript function, animate hover. And if we detect that we're not already animating this object, and we do that by simply stuffing the object into an object map and then detecting whether it's there or not. So if it doesn't exist yet, then it must be the case that we should start an animation on it. We check the radio button status and see whether we're supposed to rotate or not, and then we pick the appropriate effect to play. We set the target on the effect to be the button that was just hovered over. And then we stuff it in our maps to make sure that we don't reanimate this thing as we drag the mouse over the UI some more. And then we play the effect. And that's all there is to it. So that was the rotate 3D effect. And then the move 3D is quite similar, although this also has repeating behavior. So we have the effect declared. We've got a duration on it. We're going to normally move operates on X and Y, right? X from X2, Y from Y2. This is all sort of known standard stuff from Flex 3 that's carried over into the Flex 4 move effect. Move 3D can also move in Z. So in this case, we want to move by 30 in the Z direction, actually by negative 30 because we want it to come out toward the viewer. And then when we're done, we want to pop it back. So we want a repeat count of 2 because it's going to go out and then back. And we're going to give it a repeat behavior of reversing. This is new in Flex 4, the ability to actually reverse an animation when it repeats instead of simply looping as it did before. We're going to, again, auto-center the transform, which is just sort of a good standard practice. And then we're going to call the same and the handler so that we remove the object from the map when we're done animating, so we get ready to animate it again as the user continues to drag the mouse around and cause mayhem all over the screen. If you want to see the source code for this application and other related graphic stuff, go to my blog at graphics-geek.blogspot.com.